Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who has to apologize. I have to dig my way out of the hole that I dug for myself with the terrible title for this video and the reprehensible thumbnail. Lana Del 90s. Jesus, Sky. Let me tell you why I had to do it. It's unforgivable, and if you don't forgive me, that's fine. But you know what? You clicked. You clicked. So you're just giving me confirmation that this is what I need to do. You see, my goal with this Thunderground Thursday, almost every Thursday I try to find a lesser known act to really feature and really tell you if you like my taste, you are probably going to like them as well. Trying to be a human algorithm or something even better than an algorithm, an older brother or a cool uncle, you know what I mean? Like, I want to share music with you, but I can't get you to click on my damn Thunderground Thursday videos. They just don't get the amount of clicks. There's nothing I can do. You haven't heard of them, you don't click. I don't blame you. Other music reviewers, if they're talking about someone I've never heard of, I don't click either. So I've started to get evil, and I start thinking of what is a way that I can feasibly draw people into this music. Now I'm going to justify this title as the weather changes outside and all of a sudden I look like a ghoul, a little green ghoul buddy. The sun will come back eventually. It's pretty thematically consistent with this album, Notions by Heavy Gus, that the sun's going away, so that's okay. I'm going to justify it, okay? But you need to know that I apologize to you for insulting your intelligence, and I apologize to the band, who are, frankly, better than Lana Del Rey, and better than most music made in the 90s. Now, what makes it Lana Del Rey? Well, it's a lead singer, a female lead singer, who's very kind of sultry and melismatic. Melismatic is, when you have like one syllable and you do lots of notes with it. Like video games, that kind of stuff. But really, in a less superficial way, the similarity is just that it's the dry, like the charisma of this singer is really what draws you into the music. I don't think it's the same vibe. It's not the same sort of like Wounded Doe vibe that Lana Del Rey puts out. But there's a certain sort of a strength and a vulnerability in both, which I find similar. Why is it like the 1990s? Well, hey, the 1990s were the last gasp of rock and roll before every rock and roll album had to be in conversation with computers. And like a lot of great Neil Young, like a lot of great 90s rock albums, it feels very inspired by Neil Young. It feels very centered on taste over virtuosity. And it just reminds me of another female-led group, the Breeders, in a very good way. I tell the story all the time, but I saw Nirvana in concert. And they were probably 1/3 as good as the Breeders, who opened up for them. It was cool seeing Nirvana, and I love Nirvana, but the Breeders were just amazing. Mainly, this is the kind of rock and roll that when I was a younger man, this is what I was trying to find. This kind of, I'll call it indie rock because they're sort of, I guess they're on a major label, so they're not even indie, but whatever, and so was Nirvana. But like this is the kind of rock I was always looking for. And the thing is, Lana Del 90s, even though I used it to get you to watch this video, it actually does a disservice to the quality of this album, the quality of this music. Now I want to share a little bit of like how I got into this album. See, I try not to get into biography. And I listened to this album, and the first time I listened to it, I was organizing and vacuuming my garage. My wife is very, 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 very due date last week pregnant. So I'm like nesting. I'm doing all this stuff around the house. I'm vacuuming, I'm gardening, I'm mulching. I'm doing all these things I didn't used to do. And we listened, and I went through all the new music, trying to find something to review, and I landed on this, and I just loved it. So the first time I listened to it, I had no idea who they were, what they looked like, what it was. I just listened to this music. But as I actually got into the biography of the band, I realized that it's very much in sync with where I am right now. Now, I guess they're from the high desert in California somewhere, which, okay, that's fine. And it was recorded in Nashville, and that kind of comes through. I guess the guy, it's a 3-person band, and 2 of them are married, and the main guy is in the Lumineers. I didn't pay any attention to music before 2018, so I don't really know the Lumineers at all. Just not at all. So that didn't do anything for me. But what did do it for me is the idea that it's sort of a love band. I'm in a loving mode right now, obviously getting ready to have a child, my wife and all that. And apparently, and I'll talk about this later, the lead singer also just gave birth. So like they got married and just had birth and just gave birth. And a little bit of research, and, my wife has a doctorate in a hard science. She's much smarter than I am. I don't just say that to be cute. I just say that to be accurate. But apparently this lead singer, Dorota Suzuta, I don't know, has a master's in water biology. And you can just look this all up. So I started looking her up like in the scientific. I found that her master's thesis was on community structure and zonation of Antarctic benthic invertebrates using a remotely operated vehicle under ice to define biological patterns. I don't know, benthic invertebrates. This is the only rock and roll album that's ever got me to look up what a benthic invertebrate was. By the way, those are organisms that live on the bottom of a water body or in the sediment, and obviously have no backbone. So she's going up to Antarctica and studying invertebrates in the sediment. Is a crab an invertebrate? I don't even know what an invertebrate... Crabs don't have backs, do they? They have little shells. Are crabs invertebrate? This is why my wife is smarter than me. I don't even know. So, just having this sort of similarity, just sort of thinking about pregnancy and childbirth, and just a really smart, highly educated scientist. I'm just kind of in this mode. But the thing is, this album goes way beyond that. It's way more than a Cherith cute story. The main thing I would say about this album as a rock and roll album is it is ridiculously well produced, but not flashy. So it's not well produced in the Phoenix way or the Beach Boys way, where everything is just so precious. But every single song develops in layers, or has little instances, or has instrumental choices where, even though this album worked great for vacuuming my garage and kind of playing on the boombox and all that, like close listens, which I've been doing today, really pay off. And it's a very, very agreeably, again, it's that taste over virtuosity. It's a very tasteful album filled with great, the bass playing on this album is as good as bass playing ever gets. The drumming on this album is absolutely spectacular, not because it's impossible to play. I could realistically play all of the drum beats on this album, but they're the right drum beats for the song. I don't know why I pronounced it like that. For the song. I normally drink out of a mug, but I'm drinking out of a clear thing so you can see water. Because if I was a water biologist, I'd be like, there's benthic invertebrates in there. Can you eat benthic invertebrates? That's going to be my new insult, by the way. Oh, that dude was such a benthic invertebrate. I mean, so the production's great. But really, it's all a vehicle for this voice, for this very strong, very weary but earnest voice. Like she sounds very world weary, but very earnest at the same time. So when I call it sort of 90s, you might think that it's just sort of really detached. And sometimes it is, but it's never fully detached. Lots of themes of nature, lots of themes of heartbreak, which is sort of funny in the context of an album which I see as the sort of loving album. So I can't quite put those things together. But really, it's just the strength of this lead singer. A good rock band with a great lead singer and great songwriting and great production. That's what you want. So, let me give you my stamp for the album. This doesn't always happen, but in this case, the first track off the album is my favorite track. This is what reeled me in like a benthic invertebrate. Dinner for Breakfast. You can click above the Bird of Paradise if you want to hear the song. Listen, what do I have to do to get you to listen to the song Dinner for Breakfast? Seriously. Do I have to do a TikTok dance and make my kids angry? Do I have to make a thumbnail with me saying you have to listen to this with my eye really big for some reason? How can I get you to, if you like rock and roll music, great, strong female lead singers, production that reminds you of the best instincts of both sort of 90s rock and Neil Young, how can I get you to listen to the song Dinner for Breakfast? I just need you to hear it, okay? Can you tell me that? Can you tell me? Can you smash the like bucket, subscribe, and tell me that you listen? Say, Sky, I listened to Dinner for Breakfast. I did my homework, okay? Maybe you don't like it. If you don't like this song, that's totally cool. But I think you will. If you're subscribed to me. Starts off with these synthesizers, these low bass. Like low bass synthesizers, kind of gnarly. And then this beautiful bass comes in. Bass is almost always the lead line, like the lead sort of instrument being played here. And then these drums come in sort of sloppily. Beautifully but sloppily. Sloppily in the good way. In the Ralph Molina of Crazy Horse good way. Not like the guy can't play, but like the guy's playing what he should be playing. And then the haunting, gorgeous voice. Some of these lyrics. You're on the road having fun and feeling reckless. I'm making dinner, then I'll eat it for my breakfast. And dinner once again. Sexism is a real thing. And men... I used to be in a band a long time ago, and my favorite lyric that my lead singer ever wrote was, he said that he was standing around with the dishes. That was his description of what he was doing. And that kind of just like idleness and just sort of like laziness and dysfunction is really usually only permitted in male lead singers. I love the fragility and the idleness and just the desperation implied in this lyric. I'm making dinner, then I'll eat it for my breakfast. You know, like how alone can you feel? How alone can you feel? You know, eating breakfast for dinner, that means you've done something well. You know, like you're going out, you're partying with your friends, then you go to Jay's Diner and it's awesome. Yeah, it's the best, you know. But if you're eating dinner for breakfast, it means like you can't even be bothered to like make some toast. It means that whatever you made, it doesn't really matter. You're just eating for sustenance. You're not eating for joy. And then you're eating dinner once again, the same meal? How do you communicate this kind of loneliness while you're out on the road having fun and feeling reckless? How do you express it? This is how. This is songwriting, efficient, evocative, original. I haven't heard this being used before. It all comes together. And then it's with this production, gentle dynamics. Okay, this isn't quiet, loud, boring dynamics. This is gentle dynamics. Blaring guitar feedback at the end of the chorus. Now, Neil Young did release an entire album of feedback called Weld. I do own that album. I've never listened to it. I bought it in 1992 or whenever it came out. I never listened to it. But Neil Young, I don't know. I'm just guessing that Neil Young is the major touchstone for the songwriting and the production of this album. Not in like an aping way, because when you have a singer who's singing so beautifully, like it undoes a lot of the Neilness of it. But just the way the melodic, the harmonic possibilities of feedback are still underused in rock and roll. And they're being used really well here. And then for the rest of the song, you know, she sings about like living in this valley, driving in the valley. An acoustic guitar appears to sort of like out of almost nowhere. And then all these lyrics debasing herself. I'll be your queen, I'll be your boy, just call me yours. Just this real sense of desperation and lost. Eating breakfast for dinner. No, eating dinner for breakfast. The sun keeps on hiding, so my lighting is going to keep being interesting. So I don't edit my videos, if you didn't know. So the dogs are probably going to bark, and the sun is going to keep making me look like a little green ghoul, buddy. The next song is called Weird Sad Symbol. And it's a weird sad fact that this is apparently their most streamed song. It is my least favorite song on the album. I like it. But it's this more rocking mode, kind of a back and forth guitar. The voice is a little bit more aggressive, a little bit less engaging to me. I like the lyrics, you know, like some weird sad symbol and watch the world crumble. But I just don't like the up tempo as much. But again, when I talk about every song having something, every song has something. I'm not going to tell you every song what it has, because I want you to discover for yourself sometimes. But here, this song, which is my least favorite song on the album, but still a good song, there's this guitar solo that is a lyrical guitar solo. By that, I mean it's a guitar solo where the notes speak. They sing. It's not... Right? It's like each note is the right note. I'm going to say Neil Young again. Do we have to talk? In the beginning, it reminded me almost like of an 80s song. Like just the first couple seconds, like it was like That New Order song, you know, the guitar and the bass in unison. Tell me in the comments, what New Order song am I thinking of? And then the voice has this chorus effect. And I think it's a doubled voice. And her mouth is so close to the microphone. It's just very, you know, again, like the Lana Del Rey comparison, just because what most people associate with Lana Del Rey is that like vampy self-destructiveness. But it really is this charisma that I'm talking about, you know, and it's, people sexualize it, but I don't think that the strength comes from sexuality. I think that the strength comes from just this kind of charisma. It's kind of like a weird little Beatles carnival moment just for a quick second. Some more great lyrics. I think it's snowing or it's ash. This is definitely a Californian. I used to live in California before. I now live in Rochester, New York area. I got my doctorate in Santa Barbara. So that's definitely a weird, true thing. And then there's like a jammy section at the end. And I don't know what this band is like live. I'm not going to find out because my wife is going to give birth anytime. And they're going on tour. But I don't think I can make it to Philadelphia in like 2 weeks. But I bet they could jam. Like, I bet this song could go on for 10 minutes and it would be great. I don't know what the lead singer would do. I don't know. I think I read somewhere she plays violin. So maybe she could play violin. Andrew Bird. Next song is called Breathe. Starts off with this beautiful bass line. Really just great bass playing. I mean, I'm not a bass player. I mean, I can play bass, but I'm not a bass player, you know. I talk too much. But the bass lines on this album are memorable and tasteful and good. Just really, really good bass lines. And like there's some organ, the guitar is just used to kind of punctuate. It has kind of like a neo-soul sound. Interesting lyrics about a baker's half dozen of horses. She mentions watermelon grows. It was funny because about every 3 days, I cut up an entire watermelon for my wife because when she's this pregnant, she can't do anything. She's just so tired. And she loves eating watermelon. So I was listening to this and she's like, are you just listening to songs that are talking about watermelon because you're cutting up a watermelon? There's some really nice, too, sort of insouciant lyricism. And here, it's clear the water biologist comes out. She talks about arsenic in the water. Did you know there's arsenic in the water? There is. I actually worked for a consulting company. When I was in my early 20s, I just had no direction. None. I didn't know I wanted to be a professor or a YouTuber or anything. I was like Big Lebowski without the drugs, right? Just totally. And so my friend's dad did a consulting company, and what we had to do is we had to take all the letters that were sent to the government that was protesting George H. Bush's initiative to increase the amount of arsenic that is allowed in our drinking water. And so we had to like catalog all of the letters of protest about the amount of arsenic in our water. It was very important work. Except the bill had already passed 2 years previous. We were just cataloging it. All of these letters that were written, people outraged, they want to protect their kids, they want to protect their water. It was all for nothing. It was literally, I was getting paid probably $10 an hour to do data entry for nothing and nobody. The system's broken and we're all drinking arsenic. Because the benthic invertebrates in Washington thought, how many parts per million is too much, right? I mean, who even knows this? But it's nice, because we have the watermelon theme and arsenic, and there is a whole sort of nature theme throughout here. And she sings in general with a kind of resignation about the state of the world, but there's something about her voice where she never sounds like she's quitting. Very catchy chorus, very, again, melismatic. Like, I believe she sings Breathe in the Cold, but the word breathe goes on for 7.5 minutes. Almost religious chorus in the back, and then... Okay. So I've given a lot of love to the singer and the bass player, and a little bit to the drummer. But here, the drummer deserves more attention and more praise. Before the second chorus, these are these production details I'm talking to you about. they extend out the bit before the chorus with extra drum fills. And these drum fills are not just so you go, bro, sick fills. The fills are there to build up anticipation to get to the breathe into the cold part. And it's just great. Just wonderful production, wonderful, perfect, tasteful drum lines. Next song is called Still to Be. The bass is like in both channels. I think there's an acoustic guitar just in the right. There might be a flute. The strength of her voice is enchanting. I wrote that. That's all I wrote. I'm not proud of myself for writing that. I mean, I'm more proud of that than I am of the stupid thumbnail. But it's how I felt. So that's I don't do reactions, right? I don't do reaction videos because I'm not good at them, and I don't think they're particularly useful. But it is helpful to just say that when I listen to this album, at times I was just like, this is great. I love that we had Locked In As We Fell, kind of a poppy song. This is maybe the most, if you like sort of pop indie rock, this is the one to listen to. She sings a lot about like wetness, like swampy, sweaty feelings. And maybe this is, again, because she spends all of her time in the bottom of the Antarctic Ocean. Is there an Antarctic Ocean? God, I know nothing about science. It's terrible. Anyways, next song is called Trees. Another thing I don't know about. I think there's a pedal steel in here, which I think if you record an album in Nashville, you have to just get some session guy to do pedal steel for you. Really like nice, high, sweet voice. Super simple chord progression. I think it's like like almost the Franklin's Tower by Grateful Dead. Like just that simple chord progression. But there's a real emotional strength to this song. This song, I think, has the most emotional, well, not the most emotional strength, but has a really great emotional strength. The soundscape to the voice, the production's great. Just a full, again, Neil Young style guitar work after the chorus. And then these very mysterious lyrics. The trees will only fall for trees. I don't really get what that means. But what I mean about the emotion in the song is it builds up with these harmonies. And it's just very gentle in the back, and then this little feedback solo. Then we get to the song Try. This is the most overtly 90s throwback song, especially with like the lyrics, like try, try, try. Why do I bother making the bed? I'm gonna be lying there every day until I'm dead. Preach it, sister. I mean, she really does sound like a slacker. At times, she sounds like a slacker dude singing. And just women are not allowed to be slackers. That's not a persona that our culture has allowed them to have. Or if they do, it's seen as being disruptive. But if we had real equality in this world, we would just, the Bill and Ted's sequel would be more appreciated. It's a pretty good movie, actually. Sort of the most loud drumming, some crash cymbals, another kind of feedback solo. Then we get to the song Paracosm. Fancy word. I'm going to let you guess what it means. What is paracosm? You're probably going to think it's like something to do with like water biology. I hope there isn't a different Dorota Suzuta. I hope this is the same person. I'm just assuming it's the same person. If not, then this is a really badly done video. No, Paracosm just means a detailed imaginary world. So I want to thank this band for teaching me this word because, a dream world is one thing, but Paracosm is much more. Nice echoing sounds in the back. The voice is really taking the lead. It's almost sort of a waltz. Maybe even some tap licks going on here. Great droning outro. Again, I get the sense this band, if I could take the time to drive to Philadelphia and see this band, if I didn't have hopefully a couple-week-old baby, I'd be able to go. I bet this is just a great song to jam on. I want to just read you some of the lyrics here. It's a good example of her lyricism. All the hillside bathed in gold light, unruly sun, poured its rays round each surface for no one. So if you grew up in the desert, and I think this person grew up in the desert, or lives in the desert, that's funny, isn't it? If you're a water biologist living in the desert, that'd be like if I was like a tropical plant specialist living in Rochester, New York. Sick metaphor, bro. All the hillside bathed in gold light, unruly sun poured its rays round each surface for no one. So it's beautiful. The idea of like a sun for no one. Depersonalized sun. Great lyricism. Your search for meaning's been fruitless, no hitting charms. Drive through the desert, thirsty with open palms. Make me stop moving for just one moment. So, this whole sense of like a sun that's pouring onto a surface where no one is. It's like it's being wasted, like a fruitless search for meaning. And here I just have to mention what may be the greatest music video of the year. I'm biased. I'm going to spoil this video for you. If you don't want it spoiled, just trust me. This is one of the most moving videos you're ever going to see for the song Paracosm. I'm now going to spoil it for you. You were warned. It's a time-lapse video of this woman, and she gets into a bikini. So when I first saw this, I was like, come on. I mean, she's an attractive woman, and I'm attracted to women, so I see a woman in a bikini. I'm like, awesome, but like, I'm also a feminist, so I don't want some female singer to have to be in a bikini in order to have a successful record. And I don't, I'm just like, I was a little bit disappointed, because the teenage boy in me, wants that, but the man, the human being, the humanist, wants to get past this point where every female singer has to like show what they look like in a bikini, or else, they're not going to be viable in the market. But then it ends up being a time-lapse video by this pool where she gets increasingly pregnant. And it's very beautifully done. It's not done preciously, like it moves a little bit. It's not totally smooth. And then when she's like fully pregnant, she jumps into the water. And by the way, if you ever know someone who's pregnant and you have a pool, give that woman a pool. It is the best place to be. We actually went on Facebook and just asked if anyone had a pool. And I swear to God, 2 strangers let us go to their pool. 2 strangers gave us the code to their pool. We never saw them. And she just floated. Like, that's how important it is. I watched this video with my wife, and she's like, I'm so jealous of that pool. So it's this beautiful moment, and she's swimming around, and it's really passing a lot of time on her pregnant body, but that's the thing. Like, that's the actual beautiful thing about this. It does this thing where you're seeing a woman in a bikini, but you're not thinking auga, right? Like, you're not in that zone. You're in this zone of thinking about the process of life and about how this all works and the function of human bodies in different stages, and just the, like, it's beautiful without being sexy or ist, right? And then she gets out of the pool and she's breastfeeding and she has the baby. It's awesome. It's just great. It's perfect. It's a perfect idea. It's really well done. And it's moving, and it's exactly the video that I need to see right now. Because when your wife is very, 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 due date was last week, pregnant, you just it feels like it's never going to happen. So we watched it together. We cried. It was awesome. Next song is called Distant Thunder. Cool bass drums, almost like a heartbeat, very ambient guitar. The song sounds like Distant Thunder. Like I say, she writes a lot of lyrics that feel like it's very connected to nature, and this feels very much that way. It's like a story about a breakup, it seems, but it just has that kind of distant... It feels like you're in a desert and there's distant thunder. The final track is called Scattered, Boston accent. Just her voice and like a cheap acoustic guitar to start, doing a lot of that melismatic singing. Some of the best harmonies on the album. There's a certain point where she pronounces this word, into the dark, into the wet, the melodramatic. Her voice is so clear so close to the microphone, and you can hear like melodramatic. Like there's a real clarity to the voice. It's really nice. So many layers. I think there's like strings. There's like most production going on here, and it just ends with this note of super, super resolution. So I'm going to stop now. Hopefully it's under 30 minutes, so you clicked on it. I hope you did. Tell me what you think about the album in the comments. Tell me what you think about benthic invertebrates and George H. Bush putting arsenic into our water. Send me a letter. I'll input it when I can. Until next time, there's the camera.